Hi, this is Dr. Fair, and I'd like to welcome you to 508. Much of this class is going to deal with lesson plans and learning to do your teacher work sample for next semester, which means a lot of assessment. So we're going to be looking at assessment, why it's important, and the different types of assessment. So I thought it might be good to start right off the bat with talking about assessment and welcoming you to class. The reason that assessment is so important is because we want to make sure that students are truly learning. But the only way to really know if students are learning what we think they're learning or hope they're learning is to assess them. So the first type of assessment we want to discuss is the pre-assessment. And a pre-assessment provides a way for teachers to gather key information about what students know and are able to do prior to instruction, as well as what student interests and learning styles are. Pre-assessments can be paper and pencil tasks or performance-based. They provide evidence to help teachers effectively match instruction with the needs of students. This includes decisions about content, pacing, materials, grouping, and specific learning activities. Whatever type of pre-assessment you end up creating, be sure to use the standards to begin with. That way, when you get the results of the pre-assessment, you can use those results as evidence to determine how you want to create the unit, what your students need, and how you would need to differentiate instruction for them to be successful. Examples of pre-assessments can be, like a little quiz you create at the beginning and a little quiz maybe you even create at the end, so you can tell how they learned from the beginning to the end. And we will do that next semester in the teacher work sample. A KWL chart or know, want, learn chart. And what this does is you, when you first introduce it, you can talk to the students about what they already know and have them share what they know. And then you get a good idea from listening to your students, what they know, what they want to know, what they would be interested in learning. And of course, you still have to teach what's in the standards. You can use anticipation guides or mind maps. Another real interesting one, especially for math, but you can do it in other subjects, is called 5 Most Difficult First. And you can give students the 5 most difficult problems in, let's say, the math unit that's coming up, and see how many students can answer them. So let's say, for example, you do have students who can answer those 5 most difficult first before the unit even begins, then you know that they don't need to do that unit, that they need to be doing something else while they're in your class at that time, some sort of extension that challenges them. So pre-assessments also can be used to figure out who needs to be extended, who needs to be supported, and who can most benefit just from a sort of, curriculum that's kind of in the middle. The next type of assessment, so those are pre-assessments and the reasons why they're so important. Formative assessments are in the middle. And the important thing about formative assessments isn't just that we do them, but we do them to learn. We do them to get evidence on student learning. Do we know that students are learning? What are they learning? And who's learning it? So if we want to differentiate instruction for our students, we need to know how to do that. So if we give any type of formative assessment, and then we look at the results of that formative assessment and we say, okay, these 3 students need to do this, most of the class needs to do this, and there's a few students, that really need support in different ways. They may or may not be on an IEP. I also included a site with 56 examples of formative assessments, and believe me, there are more. Okay, I tried to find one that had more, for middle school and high school, but there are so many ways to formatively assess students. Here's an example of a Venn diagram. One huge strength of using these kinds of graphic organizers is, number one, it helps students organize information. But also, while the students are working, say in groups of 2, you can walk around the room and support what they're doing. and learn what they know and what they don't know, make suggestions, ask questions, and support their progress. Another is a quick poll, and you can do this many ways: hands up, hands down, thumbs down. They also have really neat ones with clickers. They have a lot of them. If you're on Schoology or you're on kids have iPads, you can do them on those. There's lots of neat ways to do quick polls, and I think that's sort of just to get a quick idea of their understanding. It's not as in depth as a Venn diagram or having them organize information, but it gives you an idea and them an idea of if they understand something. Another one that I've actually found just recently is called Flubberoo, which sounds pretty funny. But you can use this to create quizzes, and the nice thing about this is it's free, and the information is graded in under a minute. It gives students feedback, and you can email it to them. The last type of assessment is the summative assessment, and this one you can use to evaluate student learning, very important. Did they understand the skills that they needed to learn to be successful in that unit, whatever it is? For example, did they need to learn how to cite specific references in the right way if they're writing a paper? And also what their academic achievement is. So for a summative assessment, sometimes it comes at the end of a day. If you want to have like a formative assessment along the way, like a graphic organizer, and then something else at the end of the day. Or you could have a lesson with the graphic organizer being kind of the summative assessment at the end of the lesson. But the end of the unit should have something, pretty substantial. It doesn't have to be a test, or it can be a test and a project, or just a project. But what's really important is that the questions you're asking or the project that you're giving measures those standards for each student, so you know that they learn that material. Doing these assessments will set the stage for you to be able to differentiate for your students. Your job is to use the evidence from the pretest and the formatives to actually create differentiation so that your students, all of your students, are successful. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful semester. Welcome to the class.